Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
So what can we expect to see in tonight's debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump?
So the question for this week becomes the debates, and I'm already exhausted. And this is the debate prep show.
Well, it is a debate prep show, but I often think of debates that we've done in the past, and I can only imagine the hyperactivity behind the scenes as far as negotiations for muted mics, coin flips for who goes first and last, think about all the debates we've done and all the details to be worked out. Now you're talking about one on this stage.
Do you think that Donald Trump sits down for debate prep? I could just imagine his team trying to corral him and tell him stuff, and he's just off doing something else.
Stop scrolling. He's watching Instagram reels.
This is a sincere question, though. Do you think he sits down and says, "Okay, prep me," or is it just kind of you got to catch him as he's doing something else? What do you think?
He's got to be prepping.
Yeah,
has to. And the only reason I say that, well, there's a few reasons
I'm saying nothing because I don't have an answer. I really don't.
I just think the fact of agreeing to do a debate, and I know both him and the vice president have agreed to this with no notes. I think that's somewhat of a high wire act. Going out with no notes, just a pen and paper, and you can't have anything written on it. So when you get there and that pen and blank paper is there, it's kind of like that test when they gave you a note card once you got in the room, like you crammed everything in there and then you wrote down the little bit.
Well, we don't know at what point in time the cameras go on, at what point in time the rules go into effect. Okay. When they walk out, obviously one of the key things to note is who's got a legal pad with them. And I would be guessing that the lawyer would bring the legal pad with them. And that would, of course, that doesn't say anything. It would make sense. I know that if I was going into a debate, I would have something with me that I could write on. And you have to, because things move so quickly and someone will say something that'll trigger a thought or give you a thought. So that it's important. You have to be able to write things down. You really do.
Well, it also is an artificial rule. It's not like the president has to prove that they can't write something down. You're allowed to write stuff down as the president. So I don't know what we're trying to prove if you say you can't have a pen.
Well, but what would be interesting is if we did have a camera feed and we could tell from the minute they walk out, if the first person goes out is writing down the 4 things that they made absolutely certain they did not want to forget to say.
Can you write on your hand?
Yes, you actually can. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Listen, I've been behind the scenes in televised debate preps for major campaigns. And so you can actually write on your hand. You can, when you pull your card out, and of course, who's going to examine the cards? They're going to frisk you before you go out?
Yeah, I think they're
If I've got a legal pad, it's like, can I have one dog-eared page at the end and flip it over?
I think they're going out with nothing, and I think the blank sheets of paper and pens are to be there.
Okay,
already.
In which case, the first thing I would do would be I would train my candidate to do is, remember, these are the 4 things. These are the 4 things you must accomplish. Why is that important? Because anyone who does debate prep knows you prepare a playbook.
Okay.
And I can't believe that Kamala Harris wouldn't have a team with a playbook.
Oh, yeah.
And you literally will it's like a football playbook.
Yeah.
You will number your plays. You will number your offensive plays. You'll number your defensive plays. And you will have all of those things down. And then you'll walk out saying, when we leave, these 4 things or these 3 things have to be in the viewer's mind. And so that's your objective.
I think I saw as well, the rules are 2 minutes for answers and then also responses. 2 minutes is a long time.
We found that in the last debate, even though we were dealing with one candidate, obviously, that was having a hard time with the 2 minutes. But Donald Trump was literally throwing back half of his time on a regular. It is a long time. 2 minutes is a long time to talk. It's particularly difficult if you think you've got a memorized prepared remark, because now you've got the clock ticking in your mind as well. That's where memorizing actually goes against you, because you have to memorize not just what you said, but you have to memorize how long it takes you to say it. And that takes some time.
This would be very difficult. Do you think they're going to shake hands before the debate?
That probably is the fairest and most significant question. That I don't know if any other media people will ask that question, but I think that's a very significant question.
That's what stood out. I think that soured the debate in June between President Biden and President Trump is the fact neither of them went over to each other, and all decorum was thrown out the window from the start.
I think Americans want to see a little bit of civility at the start and end of a debate. And you can go hard at each other during the, within the bounds, but I think people want to see some civility.
So I don't know that I could ask why people would watch the debate. I would submit that I'm watching it. I mean, obviously I have a professional interest, and so I don't have a choice. I have to watch it. Right. It's my job. If it wasn't my job, I would watch it out of curiosity.
Oh, I'm very curious to see how this is must-see TV, I think.
I think so, because I think it's got the potential for like World Wrestling Federation kind of potential. I mean, it's just that sort of thing of who's going to these are two characters. Yeah. These are two people that are completely capable of getting off the rails and losing self-control. I mean, they both are at different ways and different levels.
There's no doubt. Yeah. And I think to Alan's question about debate prep, I think that's probably what the Trump team has been going with him about is, hey, don't dive into personal attacks. Don't get drugged down, because she is going to attack, I would think, to try and get him off his game, to get him flustered.
Well, she said something that I thought was very interesting. I think she said it at the convention, though I'm not sure. But it was around that time where she said, I know his type. In other words, I've seen this kind of, and I think what she was really intimating was, I've dealt with criminals all my life. I've dealt with abusive people all my life. I've dealt with bullies all my life. I know his type. I can see him come. I'm not the least bit concerned. I've seen this whole routine before. And I thought, okay, very bold. So does she come in with that kind of approach? Because if I was Donald Trump, the first thing I would say is, you said on such and such a date and time, or around that time, that you know my type. I thought that was an interesting comment. Would you mind explaining to me what type you meant? And if I was her, I would come right back and say, I would answer the question and come back and say, well, yeah, and on such and such a time, you basically called me stupid. Now, I'm just curious, Mr. President, do you really think I'm stupid?
I have a feeling the word felon is going to be used in the debate.
I felt like Joe Biden tried to make sure that he got that phrase in there. Convicted felon. I remember it was deeper into the debate than I thought it was going to get before they finally said it.
Yeah, it took a while for that to get there.
Yeah, he may have been instructed to say it sooner. But to the point about shaking hands and civility, I remember the debate in 2016 when they asked both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump to say something nice about the other person. I believe I
just felt like now we're at camp counseling. Now, Billy, you say something nice to Tom.
And I feel like that was at the end of the debate. Wasn't that the close? That may have been the close. It's hard to believe that was 8 years ago. Yeah. 8 years ago. Yeah. But I think Americans kind of resonated with that a touch by like, hey, we can't, because that's the point that we're at in politics where people think if you disagree with someone, I mean, Taylor Swift, for crying out loud, is getting more hate than anyone online because she was seen hugging Patrick Mahomes' wife, Brittany Mahomes, at the U.S. Open. And so many people are saying Brittany Mahomes supports Donald Trump, so therefore Taylor Swift should. I'm like, guys, seriously? Well, this is where we're at, that we're worried about this?
Because no matter which side of the aisle somebody finds himself, they have friends and family that are on the other side. And so sometimes we're looking for, how can I treat this person with respect while totally disagreeing with their positions? And so it'd be nice if we got at least a little bit of look at that from this debate.
Now, wait a second. Since this is now a video product as well as an audio product, I'm feeling like a pipe's about to come out from your pocket.
And I left it at home.
Is this the Fred McMurray wish from my three sons in regards to the debate? I mean, do you honestly think there is the remotest chance that these people would model anything to us in regards to civility?
Well, listen, one of the candidates was recently shot. And so I would hope that would give you some reflection. And I think it has, based on some of his remarks. Hopefully it lets you see the world in a slightly different way. And I do think people were looking for that. But that leads me to another question.
Well, what about the other candidate?
I don't know. I think there's going to be, to me, I think there's going to be maybe a guise of civility, some laughing, but I don't know that it's going to be true civility underneath. I don't know. That's just my personal thought. A little passive aggressiveness, perhaps.
What?
I don't know.
I was
Honestly, don't you feel like, this is the poorest excuse for a pre-heavyweight fight analysis. Look, did you catch Donald Trump actually using the Tyson line? Did you see that in an article recently?
Oh, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the
Did he
face.
say that?
Yes,
I didn't see him say
he
it.
talked about debate prep, and he said, and he used the Tyson line. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
That's why I don't think he's planning that much. I think he's just waiting for the punch, and then he's going to go from there.
That may be exactly what's going to happen here. And I'm almost embarrassed to be taking any time to speculate, but I think unless we analyze this going in from a professional perspective, it's going to be hard to analyze it coming on the outside, because we know the way that it's professionally supposed to be done, because we've witnessed it many times in our experience in public policy. This is not news to us. We've been in debates. We've prepared people for debates. It's not easy stuff. It's nerve-wracking. Now, the thing that everyone talks about is the muted mics. That's not the thing. The thing is that there's no audience. That's a big deal, because in a small room where you're answering questions to real people that are sitting there, not to the people that are behind them, it will tend to be a more communicative environment, because I don't care who you are. You've been in televised debates. You know what I'm talking about. You're not, it's almost impossible to debate to the camera, to look at the camera and say, and to pretend to you, the viewers at home. It doesn't happen that way. You talk to the people that are in the room. That's to everyone's advantage, I think.
iVoters.com changes everything about the way we process elections. Instead of negative TV and radio ads and biased opinions from editorial boards, now people in all 50 states can get the facts about candidates and ballot issues from a nonpartisan, independent source. iVoters is fast, free, secure, and powerful. With iVoters, you can vote with confidence and encourage others to do the same. Free minds, free speech, free agents. iVoters.com, a public service of the American Policy Roundtable.
Have you told the story on 1850 Main Street about the debate that he took you to? Can you please tell that? It's perfect for
my
this
first
conversation.
ever debate. It would have been in 2006.
Televised debate, yep.
Televised debate.
Statewide televised debate.
Statewide televised. It was probably September, October of 2006. Ballot issue on casino gambling, learn and earn. Very nervous. Wasn't even 30 years old. Had no business doing the debate.
An issue that we won, by the way, at the ballot.
We did win the
God's
issue.
grace.
Dave, thank you for trusting me to do that. Dave deferred to me and said, "You're going to do the debate. I'm going to go with you." I said, "Okay." And we went to Columbus, and it was in the basement of the State House because it was on State House media. Oh, man. And
Are you getting nervous thinking about it? No.
we drove down 71. We parked at the Renaissance like we always did. And Dave said, "We're going to go in and get a cup of coffee." And I want to be 15 minutes early for everything. And
I know.
I've
driven with you many times.
and if we'd have walked across the street right then, we'd have been 15, 20 minutes early. And Dave said, "Let's go get a cup of coffee." So, okay. So we went to the Renaissance and we got a cup of coffee, and he got a refill. I'm looking at my watch. I'm getting nervous. Dave's like, "All right, I'm going to go hit the restroom." Comes back, another cup of coffee. It's go time. "Okay, we'll go," he says. And we got like 2 minutes to get over there. We walk in a couple minutes late. We sat down. Everyone else was set up, ready to go. The gentleman that I was debating was like an expert in the field, respected, highly compensated lobbyist.
Higher than you, I would
for
say,
the
at
other
the time,
side.
at the time,
And
perhaps.
he was frustrated that he had to wait 2 minutes.
He was the big shot.
Yeah, he was a very big shot. And he was the one that was supposed to walk in the room. So Dave comes in. Dave sits in the chair, and I realized many years after the fact, Dave was in essence sending a message to the guy that, "Hey, I'm going to sit in this chair off camera, and the young kid's going to go against you and hand you your lunch. So enjoy that. I'm not even going to sit and debate you. The young guy's going to do it." And I sat down, and the debate went well. That guy was angry that I was 2 minutes late. He was mad. And So we left the debate. It went well. And Dave said on the way out, he said, "Did you learn anything?" I was like, I don't know. Tell me what I learned.
Reflect on it.
And he goes, "You won before it started." I'm like, "I did?" He goes, "Yeah." He never smiled. He was mad you were 2 minutes late when you walked in the room. You won the day. You didn't have anything to worry about. I was like, "Oh, well, thanks. I wanted to be there 20 minutes ago." Wow. But we did. That was all very intentional. We prepped like crazy. Don't get me wrong. Of course. We prepped and I knew the issue. I knew everything. I like how he didn't let you in on that little final piece. Like, he could have told you. It still would have worked.
It was a training op.
Yeah, it was a training op.
He never forgot.
And there was a lot at risk because it was one of the biggest debates of that entire season.
Yeah.
So, but I knew he'd do okay because if then I had told him, it would have put another thing in his head that would have made him nervous and uncomfortable. And you say, well, was that dishonest? No, it wasn't dishonest. I chose to be late because I know that this guy, and I know he thinks he's the most important person in the room. And the most important person in the room always shows up last. That's the secret protocol.
Wow.
So now it's just like if you're involved in a criminal sting. For example, law enforcement knows that if you're anticipating something that's going to happen in the world of criminality, that the people who show up earliest, they've been there the longest period of time, you've got to beat the other person to that spot. You've got to be there in advance. There's certain things in regards to human personality that work. They're completely legal. They're not unethical. It's just understanding human nature. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so if you could give this type of advice from your years of experience debating to each of the presidential candidates right now, what would be one piece you would give to Donald Trump and then one piece you would give to Vice President Harris?
Well, it's very kind of you to ask me that question for folks that we haven't worked together for 20 years.
I'm just purely curious. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you guys know our track record and they're saying like, well, why would you ask that guy? Well, we've done a lot of this.
Yeah. We've done.
You're leaving names off the table because you're being nice.
Because we have to, because of confidence.
Yeah. And that was the first debate I did in 2006, and we've done
a lot.
We've done plenty.
And we go back to debates in the 90s with major candidates. I mean, I can remember doing debate prep for a major candidate with Roger Ailes in the room when Roger Ailes was the nation's leading consultant before he was with Fox News. And there was just 4 of us left. They had 2 teams, and they threw everybody else out and kept the final 4, and we were the final 4 in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, so we've watched the plays. We've gone to the schools and the classes and all that sort of stuff. So what advice? Clearly, the most important advice to a televised debate, which is why I've resisted so long permitting 1850 to be a video product as well as an audio product, is it hardly matters what you say once you turn a camera on. What matters is what the viewer sees. And if they see people who are uptight, they will be uptight. And so the single most important thing is when someone's watching you, they identify with you, even if they don't like you. And if you are struggling and you are really nervous and you are really uncomfortable, they will become uncomfortable. If you smile and you are relaxed and you are breathing and you just treat the other person like a human being, they will move in your direction. In other words, the amount of warmth that you project is to the audience. And if you do that through your opponent, that's all the better. I mean, we have watched people blow up in big time debates simply because when they said something that they thought was a big deal, it struck us as funny. And so we laughed out loud. Now, it wasn't a mocking, deriding laugh. We just were like, wow. And are you serious? Okay. And suddenly everybody goes, well, wait, that was such a big point. No, I understand it was a big point. But it's so inappropriate that it's actually comical.
Yeah. I feel like there's some Bible verses about that.
Well, yeah.
God laughs at the wicked.
Yes. Psalm 37:12, as opposed to, that grinding of the teeth and gnashing. Determination in debate wins you nothing. Furrowed brows wins you nothing.
Right.
Focusing tighter to prove that you mean it more than the other. That's a way bad idea.
Yeah, sometimes you have to ask the question, do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Well, and I would
feel
say
like this works in a marriage as well. My wife was hoping I take notes.
But I think you just hit on the next really big point, which is that the person who asks the best questions wins. I mean, when you ask questions, you win almost always in every conversation. And if you can ask your opponent really good questions.
I think about it. I wasn't sure if I was winning a debate, and it was on the gambling issue as well, when I felt like I was against the ropes. I felt like they made a bunch of great points, and I'm like, oh, man, I got to grab one. And I looked across, and I was going against a former congressman, and I said, well, the real issue is you would be sitting next to me if our campaign would have wrote a check that was bigger than their campaign wrote. The only reason you believe what you believe is because of how many zeros were in their check. And that's sad. And that's unfortunate. Yeah. And they had no rebuttal. I mean, you can't reply to that, but when you're,
that's really.
And I did it in question form. I asked him a question. Would you sit with it? So
asking pivotal questions is important. I think the other thing is it is wholly appropriate to question the questioner. If a question comes forward that is either based upon a false premise or based upon a convoluted fact, or it's just plain stupid, all right, you don't basically say, excuse me, but you win the prize for the dumbest question of the evening. That's the wrong approach. Excuse me, that question is, I'm sorry, I'm having a really rough time with that. I don't even think I understand what it is that you're trying to say. Are you trying to say that? Because if you are, I'm happy to answer that. But the way you presented the question, I don't get it. What do you mean? That's really smart. If you can do it in a way that says, I want to answer your question, but I don't know why you're asking it that way.
Well, and Donald Trump as well, and I think John Fetterman brought this up. Donald Trump has been in debates unlike anyone else in the sense that he carved through the Republicans in 2015 and 2016, and a lot of times it was 2 and 3 and 4 against 1.
Yeah, he made that look like child's play.
Yeah, he's taken a lot from multiple angles. So the one-on-one debate, he should be very comfortable in based on experience, but it's still going to be interesting to watch.
One thing I am certain of is, I'm sorry, sometimes this field, and this is what we do for a living, we're missionaries in the field of public policy. Sometimes this field it gets so tiring. I'm watching all the news stories popping up 24, 48 hours in front of the debate. The polls are too close to predict. And it's all, but that's my Walter Cronkite impersonation. But no one remembers Walter Cronkite, so I got to change. And you go down the data, it's like, okay, it's a poll of 1,398 registered voters in this swing state and 1,347 in this swing state. It's not likely voters. Any poll that is not likely voters isn't worth a plugged nickel. If a pollster doesn't say, when's the last time you voted? Did you vote in the last presidential election? Did you vote the one before that? Do you intend to vote this one? Now you're starting to get to a place where you've got a little more solid, predictable piece. Everything else is mush. So you got all these polls that are within 1 point with a 4-point margin of error, which means they ain't got the foggiest idea what it is. Not a flipping clue. But they're publishing them all to let you know that this debate is going to change everything. You would think that ABC was tipping them all right? I mean, like they had a cut of the deal. Because clearly ABC's the monster winner.
Massive winner. And there'll be a lot of eyes on ABC.
I wonder if anybody is ever going to do the 8 Mile technique, let's say.
The
movie with Eminem, it's a hip hop battle rap film for those that don't know. But he takes the wind out of the sails of his opponent by making fun of his own self before the other guy gets a chance to go, and then the guy has nothing else to say. So that'd be an interesting technique to see a politician do.
Can you think of a politician who's done it?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, maybe Reagan. Maybe Reagan,
after the fact,
showing your age.
After the fact, it was after he ran, but I think Bob Dole made fun of himself in a commercial, but that was after he ran.
Was it Reagan?
It is Reagan. Yeah. Reagan was really smart at that. The self-effacing nature that Reagan always took was brilliant. And people were very wary of that because they knew that if you hit him, he's liable to take it as a laugh and say, well, if you think that's true, let me tell you something that's really worse. But, Alan, that's brilliant.
Well, do you know who else did that? Was Chesterton. Chesterton would poke fun at his size all the time. He would always laugh at himself. And
are you the least bit surprised?
I'm going to cross that off my bingo card. I'm going to cross that off my bingo card.
If we had a drinking game, you and I would never make it out of this thing alive. Okay. No, did he really?
He did. Funny enough, you mentioned that.
Chesterton.
Yes.
He was British, wasn't he?
He was. He was, yeah.
Well, Reagan's the one who used the line, did he not, regarding age, where he said, people have talked about age, and I promise not to allow the youth of my
the youth and maturity of my opponent to get to a judge.
I won't hold it against him or something like that.
My opponent's youth and immaturity, a lack of experience or something like that. Yeah, that's a brilliant point. It's sort of a way of turning the other cheek.
Yeah,
in advance, and it's really smart. Now, again,
I don't see Donald Trump doing that.
He would be good at it, though.
He'd be the best
he can make fun of everyone. If he could point it at himself, he would have amazing self-owns. It would be great.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
So it does bring us to the position of one of the questions to obviously all the prep pieces is to come out and watch who writes down first, because the person who writes, anyone who writes anything before we get started is probably writing the notes that their consultants told them to write down, probably.
Oh, I'm going to watch for that now.
It's not inconceivable that they might be writing a prayer. All right? I mean, I remember telling one candidate specifically, when you get out there, I want you to remember what you used to write on top of your test papers when you were in Catholic school. Right? Because usually Catholic kids in the old school days were taught to write some symbol or some saint's name or something at the top of their paper. Just put it right there. And it was like, it's a little form of a prayer. And I knew that this particular candidate was extraordinarily nervous. And so I said, what did you used to write? And he told me, I said, okay, when you walk out there, I want you to write that. And every time you think that you're losing it, I want you to retrace that with that pen. And ask God to help you to focus, help you to remain calm. And this guy was in a 3-series debate. He got his clock cleaned on the first one. And that's when he brought all the consultants, threw all the other consultants out and brought the other people in. He did that. That candidate did that. And afterwards, he admitted that it was extraordinarily helpful, that he had felt God's presence with him. And it calmed him. And so you need to be calm, because the craziest thing about a debate is you feel the clock ticking away. And you're thinking to yourself, this may be my only chance, and I'm out of time. This is the advantage of Donald Trump, because I don't think he takes anything that seriously. Okay. I mean, I don't think he's just the personality of a go-to guy. If this doesn't work, we'll do something else. Yeah. So I don't think he's sitting up there thinking, wow, I could lose this, and I've only got one shot left.
Well, and I think with both candidates, though, I don't think they can win the presidency with the debate, but if they have a bad debate, they could lose it.
Yeah, that's a fair question.
They could really lose it. Because I think we saw that with Joe Biden in June.
I don't think you're going to see a second debate. First off, please refer to earlier broadcasts, particularly the public square, in regards to the question of truncated. In such a truncated campaign that is on such a short field, unconventional, according to the New York Times or Washington Post. Now, I don't think we're going to see a second debate. So if the pressure of that gets to somebody, but again, I don't think those kind of thoughts get very far in Donald Trump's head. So I don't know. We just don't know.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll watch, and I guess we'll be talking about it like tomorrow or the day after or the next week.
Very soon, very soon.
Okay.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.